Hey guys, welcome back to another basic video that I find very helpful because at my house, ketchup is practically a vegetable, and today I'm going to show you how to make homemade ketchup by basically pulling out your spice drawer and going to town. So let's get started. We're going to start with a 12-ounce can of tomato paste. Tomato paste is thicker, it's not tomato sauce. Even though the ketchup that you get from the store is runnier and thinner, you do want to start with paste though. So a full 12-ounce can is what we're going to use here. All right, so to the tomato paste, I'm going to add a little bit of brown sugar. If you don't want to use brown sugar, you could use honey. Maple syrup will give that smoky, like a sweet, smoky-ish, especially with the cayenne that's coming up. But you definitely want to sweeten this. And if you are in a very low sugar or ketogenic diet, you can also use a sugar substitute for this. So brown sugar it is. What I like to do is to start by mixing the sugar and the tomato paste throughout before I add the rest of the seasonings, just so you combine it really well. By using a fork, you make sure that the brown sugar, there are no clumps, so that's also a plus. After that, we are going to start by adding a little bit of cinnamon. I know it sounds weird, but it really works in this recipe. And then I have some ground up cloves. I'm gonna also add those. And there's also allspice to it. Allspice is one of those seasonings, spices that sit in your drawer and you're like, what am I gonna do with it? Ketchup. Every once in a while, I take my spatula and scrape the sides so any seasoning that's stuck to the sides gets mixed in too. Next up is cayenne pepper. Otherwise, it's very bland, but it's not a lot to make it spicy, just a little bit. But it's cool though, if you really like spicy seasoning, you could make a spicy ketchup. After the cayenne, I got garlic powder and then some onion powder. You know how like in the back of the label, you often see in spices? That's what it is. Every ketchup company has their own mix of how much of each. I'm just sharing with you my recipe that my family likes. So the combination of this stack is, quote, spices in the back of the label. Up next, we have a little bit of white vinegar to the tomato. The white vinegar is both an acidic and a preservative. So there's 2 for 1 right there. Mix that. Plus it's a liquid, so it's gonna make your ketchup thinner. And last, water. I usually start with about half a cup of water, and then if you want a thinner ketchup, you could add a little bit more. So let's start with about a half cup. And this is really where I just pull out the whisk and incorporate it. All right, so that was the first half a cup of water. I'm gonna add another 1/4 of a cup. Now I guess you could put everything in a blender and blend away, but this is a lot more fun. With the whisk though, you get to see the thickness or consistency of your ketchup. For example, if you're making ketchup for meatloaf, this is the perfect recipe because it's thicker, so it's gonna give you that really crusty ketchup-like, as opposed to the runny ketchup from the store. All right, so if you have one of these condiment bottles, this is a perfect thing to put it right in your fridge. But for the sake of keeping this video pretty clean, we are going to just spoon it into a glass jar. Now this recipe lasts about a month in the fridge. And it yields about 2 cups, so that's 16 ounces of homemade ketchup. If you don't go through that much ketchup, you can definitely half the recipe. Just kind of be a little careful with the spices. All right, so as you can see, making homemade ketchup is super simple. This recipe yields 16 ounces of ketchup. The recipe, all the little ingredients, you'll find the link right below this video, right next to that red subscribe button. So if you wanna hang out with me and cook a new recipe every week, make sure to click that. See you next time.